Hey now, cats, we're back again this week on the Balls from Ellwood show. With me, I have Nika Comet from the band Chase the Comet. You folks have an incredible story, but we'll get to that. But I want to actually kind of delve in first for anybody that's just tuning in, kind of give a little backstory to you folks and where you came from before we get into your whole Chase the Comet band. I wanted to ask you, were you both musical as children?
I was definitely, well, musical. Well, I was singing all the time, and I was so pitchy that my parents couldn't stand that, so they needed to deal with that quickly. And they signed me up for a music school when I was 6. And talking about my husband, Alex, who also
Yes.
plays guitar for Chase the Comet and creates all the arrangements. He was not musical at all, and his family has nothing to do with music.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he just saw that band that was called Король и Шут. It's a Russian band. He saw that on TV, and he fell in love with the style that he wanted to create his own band. So half a year later, he went and signed up for musical school himself, and he was like 12 or 13.
Wow, it's amazing. You had mentioned that Alex wasn't from a musical family, but was your family musical at all?
I'm coming from actors dynasty. Everyone in my family is pretty much an actor.
Hmm.
Almost everyone. My parents, my grandparents from one side. So they do sing occasionally, but they graduated from drama schools. And yeah, they didn't want me to be an actress, though. That's why I had to be a musician.
Now, why do you feel they didn't want you to become an actress? Just because the business is so tough, or
Yeah, I feel like my mom's motivation was that she basically didn't learn anything and she didn't know how to do anything else in life except for acting, and that's why she was, kind of struggling with working in the theater. And my dad was doing a completely different thing, which is like events and runway shows as a producer, as a director. So I don't know. I feel they are pretty successful, but they don't think so, and they wanted me to be more successful. So my mom always wanted me to learn languages, and
hmm.
English is not my first language, if anybody's wondering there. But yeah, it's I think mostly my mom's merit that I can speak my second language like this.
What were your early musical influences, and do you know some of Alex's?
Oh yeah, I do. Well, my early musical influences were what my parents were listening to, and they were listening to mostly foreign music, which is music in English and French. They were listening to like a lot of meditational music, kind of like Indian stuff, because they're into different cultures, and um, they definitely respected like Queen and Michael Jackson, like the widely respected artists that are now, I mean, they've always been like idols for generations. And For Alex, he fell in love with punk rock when he was around 12, and it all went downhill from there. 'Cause he discovered ska punk, and he was listening
Ah,
to a whole bunch of Russian bands, because
you should
that's
tune into the show because primarily about horror films and ska punk. So
oh really.
yeah, I actually just put up a good buddies of mine, Joystick. I just recorded their set and I made a special out of that. You should check out. I bet you would dig them a lot.
Oh nice. Yeah, so he and that's actually kind of fun because so he was into ska punk, and he when he went to the musical school, he wanted to play the trumpet, but they told him his lips were too big, and that the trumpet class was already full, so they offered him to take trombone,
Mhm.
and he did, and he actually graduated from musical school in trombone, not in guitar.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and he actually opened up for a Real Big Fish, but not on trombone, on bass.
No way.
Yeah, yeah, and So yeah, so he was into ska punk and he was playing in different ska punk bands. And later he had hernia. And the doctor said it's because of playing trombone, you know, because like the abs wasn't
Whoa.
supposed to be trained.
I had an umbilical hernia before, and I tell you what, that's no fun. So
No, it was not. He had like two surgeries and then he stopped playing. And can you believe it? About less than a month ago, it's been 12 years that he hasn't played, and now he got himself a new trombone and he's coming back to playing. So
wow, that's awesome.
yeah.
What inspired you both to write music?
Well, for me, I've always been singing, and I love doing that like more than anything, and that's why I I consider myself not being good at any musical instrument. I play a little bit of guitar, I play the piano when I need to write songs. But my jam is singing. That's what I'm good at, and that's what I always love doing. And I was always mimicking like Celine Dion, you know, and Whitney Houston and all those great you know, singers. I was never into band culture, honestly. And then when I was 15, um, so one of my friends, he fell in love with me singing the Little Mermaid song from the Disney movie. And he also heard me singing the Celine Dion song from the Titanic.
Titanic. My heart will go on.
Yep. And he was also playing in a band. And he said, and they were looking for a female vocalist because that was one of Alex's influences. So my friend recommended me to them, and I was like, okay, whatever. I'll just come over there. And I already considered myself, you know, a pretty good artist because I was performing at like big venues with my mom, and I was touring in like um actors programs, like performing with, I was basically singing and my mom was doing like acting, and we had like those little performances that we were doing
Hmm.
you know, at like private events and at some like actors events and stuff like that. So she was like taking me everywhere. So I've been on stage since I was like 6, and before that I'd been touring with my choir, and we were touring internationally as well. And then they invited me to like audition for the band, and I'm coming there, I'm like, now who's who here, you know? And I'm 15 and they're 14. They were younger than me, 1 year younger. And so I auditioned for the band. Obviously, they're all blown away. And I'm like, I'm not sure I really want to spend my time on that. And then Alex wrote this song that made me stay in a band because I just fell in love with that song. And I'm like, okay, you know what? That might be fun. And then, you know, we started hanging out together. And in the beginning, I was not writing any songs. I was just singing what Alex would write. And later, at some point, I think the first song that I actually like the official song that I actually wrote was the translation of his song, and you can find it on streaming platforms. It's called "It Is Your Time to Live," and it's funny. You can actually also hear the little flaws in my pronunciation because it was recorded back in 2008. The song is called "It Is Your Time to Live," and since in Russian language, which is my first language, there's not too many difference between I and E. I actually sing "It Is Your Time to Leave."
I was going to ask you that. Like, what are some of like the nuances that was hard to get used to coming from Russia to here? Is there things that it took you a while to get used to? Ever like customs, like American customs?
Yeah, mentality is very different. And I've always been that person who like considered themselves, you know, more of like a Western mentality. And my parents are like this. My grandma speaks French. She travels a lot. So, you know, I come from that type of family that you know, we're citizens of the world. We respect everybody. We're very like uh wide-minded, as a, you know, uh a different word from being narrow-minded. And for us, it's always been like let's go explore. And that's why the goal was to come and, and learn and kind of adapt best things from the American mentality and keep the good things from our mentality and get rid of the, bad stuff. So when we came here, I remember like the first thing that really was very different. So my friend and I was giving a vocal class to my friend, and we got so into it, and we're just like singing stuff, and I'm like explaining to her, and then it was like past 10. It was like probably 10:07 p.m. And then there's a knock on the door, and we're opening the door, and there's a manager stand or like security, and they're like, "You guys are being loud." And it's literally 10:07. And we're like, "For real?" And I got so mad. I was like, we'll literally, like, we're not super loud. We're not having a party. We're just singing in the apartment. And someone already called and complained about us being loud. And that surprised me so much. I was like, how low is this? Like, why don't these people come to us and say it in my face, man? I come from that mentality. Like, if you have a problem, come and say it in my face, But here, 5 years later, my neighbors are having a super loud party. I'm waking up, and it takes a lot of noise to wake me up because I sleep like a dead person. And I wake up, I'm calling the police, and I catch myself doing that. I'm like, wait a second, am I really doing this? And then I understand that, okay, I don't want to have trouble with my neighbors. They're probably, very tipsy, if not like completely stoned and like drunk. And I just don't want to get out of my bed. I'm going to call the police, and they will come and they will talk to the people, nicely, and they will explain everything. And that's it. And I'm going to just keep sleeping in my bed, and that's why like, the American people say, that's why we pay taxes, right? So that people who work for us could figure shit out for us. Right?
Apartment living's hard, man. I lived in a few, and I had some neighbors just like you. And I would get home late from working, and I would just go in the refrigerator to get something, and they'd be banging on the ceiling, and I'm like, seriously?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wanted to go back. I wanted to actually ask you. I'd read that you and Alex were high school sweethearts. How did you two meet, fall in love, and is that how your first band, The Sun, came to fruition? Is that how you started a band with Alex?
Well, The Sun was actually that band that they invited me to. So when that happened, yeah. So basically what happened was, we were in the same school, and Alex and our bassist, they were a year younger than me. So they were in the 9th grade, and I was in the 10th grade. So 10th and 11th grade are considered high school, but the educational system in Eastern European countries is different. So we all stay in the same building. We don't go to other buildings.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, and we, like, if you don't change classes, if you don't go to other school, you also stay with the same people for 10 years.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Well, that actually,
if you don't get along with everybody, that would be like a living hell.
Yeah, that's why people change classes in schools if they don't. But at the same time, that allows you to build friendships for life. If you stay with the same people for 10 years, like I spent my first 9 years with the same people, and then I moved to Moscow.
What if you don't like people?
I mean, yeah, you go to another school or to another class. Yep.
It's hard maintaining a relationship when you're in a rock band together. I mean, do you two ever have time for yourself to actually just dedicate to your relationship? Or are you always thinking about music and creating? And I mean, is there ever a time where you can actually just put that on hold?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we try to, to be disciplined, and, that also came with years, to being disciplined. But yeah, but initially, coming back to the previous question, so when I first got into the band, I started singing with them, and also half of a year later, Alex and I started dating. Well, I mean, that was inevitable. two creative people, like the best of their group, eventually end up together. So we started dating, and we dated for 2 months, and then we horribly broke up, like horribly.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and of course, when you're 15, the only way of solving problems, is like being a maximalist, being like, you know what? I'm done with you in this fucking band. So that's pretty much what I said. Yeah. And then he said, yeah, well, good riddance, So yeah, so for a while we were just like, on the spikes. And then eventually we figured out, okay, well, if we want to play music, we'd better stick together, so it's okay. And so we kept playing music together. We finally found a way to figure it out. And then the next 3 years we were just playing shows. He was dating some like girls who were fans of ours. I was dating some guys, and then so on. And then 3 years later, it all came back to where it started. We figured out that it was, meant to be. And yeah, and we were 18 by that moment. And I think that's actually amazing that we had a chance to like date other people too, because now that we've been together for 14 years, and we've been together since 18, a lot of things have changed, right? So the fact that we actually got to date other people, deal with their shit, and realize that it's better to deal with each other's shit, since we have to do that anyway, because we're in a band together.
I love hearing love stories like that. Like, I mean, because especially it seems like today's day and age, nobody ever stays together. Everybody breaks up. So hearing a successful love story, especially in a rock band, is so refreshing. I love it. I just love hearing that. But let me ask you this: I was reading that you were part of an American Idol type show. Is that right?
Yeah.
And how did that? What was that like? Is that what came from that? Is that how you became My Rock Band?
No, actually, so the thing with the Sun, I don't know how that happened, and you mentioned it, and thank you so much for doing your research. I really appreciate that. So our first band was called The Sun, which is the worst band name you can come up with, because it's totally unsearchable. And when we took that in 2005, I don't know, I think we did Google, but obviously, it was the dawn of the internet, and I don't know, probably we didn't give too much fucks about that either, that there's so many things that can be The Sun as well, and that it's kind of a little bit like childish for a rock band. But anyway, we got on the project with that band name, and that's how people knew us, because we were on the project for 2 months. We actually got to the final, but the problem was that the producers of the show, they had kind of like a long argument about who was going to win, and of course, things like that are usually planned out. And so they had to finish the show before it was actually scheduled to finish. So the show lasted for 2 months. It was scheduled to last for like, I don't know, 4 or 5. But anyway, the most important insights that we got from the show, well, first of all, and to whoever is watching this, you guys, if you have musician friends, please, I'm begging you, stop telling them they should go and audition for American Idol or shit like this. You do not even understand what they're signing up for, because, well, we think, okay, we're gonna get famous, maybe, right? Famous. You don't know, because you can be cussed out after the first show, right? But what you're signing before you even start, you're signing a horrible contract that gives you like, I remember I signed a contract, it was like 5% of all my earnings just go to me. The rest goes to the producers. And I was the front woman. So my guys were getting like 3% of all the earnings. And then you have to record a shit ton of albums during a very short period of time. And you basically have to be a slave. Okay, so this is what's happening at those shows. Yes, because when they're providing you with this time on air, this is your net worth. And they are basically providing it to you for free. So you have to work it back. And when this back is going to end, nobody knows, because these contracts, they are for 5 or 7 years. Okay, so for 5 or 7 years, an artist signs up to basically be a slave to whoever is producing the show. And that's exactly what happens to at any one of those projects. And people just do not understand how it works. And the worst thing, okay, well, let's say you're Kelly Clarkson, right? She won one of those, like, I don't remember, American Idol or whatever it was called, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you're really amazing. She's amazing. I love her voice. And she actually made it somewhere, right? So people know her. She's got her own show and shit like that. So that was probably like a fair exchange, right? So she signed that contract, and in return, she actually got her net worth. She got exposure that actually got her somewhere. But think about all those artists who got in the show, got super excited, signed those contracts, and then got off after the 3rd or 4th airing, right? And then remember, everything they record and write for 5 or 7 years, it still belongs to the producers.
So that still reverts back, whether you get thrown off or not. You're still contractually obligated for 5 to 7 years of everything you do.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you were thrown off, it means that they're not going to invest money in you. So you're just going to sit there and be like,
wow.
That's it. And we were actually super lucky that the producers of the project that we were on, I think they had an argument with the producers of the channel. So they were the producers of the band that was based, like a bigger band that was promoted on that show, because they were the judges. And then there was the channel producers. They somehow got into a fight. I don't know the nitty gritty, but so they ended the show, and somehow like it fell apart. So we were not actually obligated to follow that contract. And nobody came to us, since we didn't really make much money, nobody came to us to claim those songs that we wrote after the project. So we were releasing albums, but we were doing it independently, so nobody really cared, but here in America, they won't let you go, and they won't let you release anything. And that's what happens with some artists. And again, if you read some books about like how the music industry works, and maybe watched some movies, like there's that famous movie that 30 Seconds to Mars made, The Artifact, about how they had a lawsuit with Virgin Records. And there's plenty of stories like that. Like, if you get signed to a label, there's a very high chance that you can be just put on a shelf because they have an artist that is in your niche and that is more successful, and they just want to get you out of the way as a competitor. So they will invest money into your album. You will record everything, and then you will come to them and you will ask, hey, when is my album going to come out? And they're going to say, maybe spring, because right now we've got Katy Perry and you guys sound alike. That's why we signed you in the first place. But their thought is, okay, you sound like Katy Perry, you're a potential competitor. So we're going to sign you and we're going to keep you in. We're not going to release you. We're not going to invest money.
Pretty much putting you in a holding pattern until they see fit.
Yeah, and you can't do anything with that music, and you still owe the label, the money that they gave you to record your stuff, which is a lot usually, So that's why when people come to me, and like this happens so many times, and I try to be nice. You see, I'm a nice person, and I never want to offend people, and I understand when they give me advice, and this is, first of all, this is unsolicited advice, because obviously, if you're a builder, you're not going to ask a singer how to build, stuff, right? So when people of other professions come to me and they try to give me advice, I appreciate their intent. Like, they think I'm talented and they wish me all the best, but please, please, please do not try to give people advice in a field where you don't understand shit.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, this has been eye opening. I can't even. Wow, that's just amazing. This wow. Well, let's talk about something a little happier now. Now that we know the intricate workings of the snaky like music companies, music business. It's just terrible that they take advantage of people they got to begin with. I mean, even streaming sites like Spotify. I have so many friends that are in bands that they talk about how they take advantage of their music. I mean, they take their music and they don't even pretty much pay them at all, or they'll pay them pennies on a dollar. So I mean, across the board, the music industry has always been a corrupt and horrible thing, and it's nice to know that it hasn't gotten any better. But let me ask you this: whenever when was that one moment, that one moment that stands out in your in your singing career that was like the moment where you were chasing the dragon, the definitive moment where you're like, hey, I made it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is how I want to try to make a living. Is there one moment in your mind that stands out that moment?
Maybe not one, but it happens every once in a while. The thing is, and I feel like this should be applicable to anything you do in life. So if you're a smart person, you constantly check your choices, right? Like if you made a choice to be, and let's give a good example, relationships, right? Okay, so I married this person 10 years ago, right? I made a choice to be with this person. Do I still choose to be with this person every single day? Or am I here just out of habit or out of fear to be single or out of any other motivation, right? And to me, the only reason why should be because I still choose to be with this same person, because I still choose to do music, to, and to enjoy it. And I constantly question myself about stuff like this, even as I said, about other things, not just about music. And then this realization that after all these years, oh my God, I'm gonna cry right now, look at me. After all these years, you still enjoy this, and like you play, like even yesterday, we went to play this little our friend was throwing like a not a slumber party, but like an apartment little acoustic event, right? I love playing with a full band, like the drums and everything, like it's a totally different vibe. But just performing yesterday, especially after COVID, and we get to play more and more and more, and every time I do this, I came back like drunk with emotion yesterday. I don't drink, like we're straight edge. But yesterday I couldn't fall asleep until like 3 a.m. in the morning, because I was like, that was just pure joy,
Amazing. I know exactly that feeling. I'm very passionate about things too, and I know that exhilaration you get when you do something that you're super duper excited about. What made you want to leave and come here when it seemed like you already kind of had a successful thing going?
Okay, well, I would want to say it was because of politics, and especially now, again, right? I'm proud to be the example to show that not all Russians are assholes. Not all Russians support the BS that's going on there right now. I actually openly supported Ukraine, and I've got friends and fans in Ukraine, and fortunately, my family is not brainwashed. They also support, Ukraine, because we all have friends, and we're normal people, right? We're not brainwashed. But initially, when we came here for the first time in 2016, it was well, the desire for adventures, boredom anyway, feeling like there was a ceiling that was pretty achievable there, because we did achieve some success. I wouldn't say it's like mind-blowing success over there. But we toured. Alex opened up for Metallica in Linkin Park and Muse on biggest stadiums in Russia, in Ukraine, in Minsk, Belarus. He also toured with like some other bands like 3 Days Grace, Hollywood Undead, and Seether, and you know, a lot of bands as a hired gun with another band. He was in another band that opened up for those American and Canadian bands. And I was touring with you know, a rock band as a backing vocalist, singer, and we saw the ceiling. You know, like, okay, so if we're famous here, we go perform at summer festivals every year, same festivals. We go to the same cities in winter when we go on tour, the same promoters, the same venues, same shitty fucking weather, the same shitty service. You know, it's like you want to have the highest work ethic possible. Like it's just a lot of people don't understand that, you know, and yeah, it was the will to, and we understood we would have to build everything from scratch, and we thought, okay, well, if we want to do that, it's time to do that before it's too late. So that's what we did.
Once you came here, you started playing some iconic venues like the Whiskey A Go Go, the Viper Room, just to name a few. How did you get established when you first got here? And was there anybody that was willing to give you a hand? Maybe get your foot in the door over here.
Well, first of all, I don't really think we're that established yet. I mean, we're in the process. Unfortunately, I mean, there were definitely people who wanted to help. And I would definitely say that most of all, it was fans of our music from all over the States, mostly the States, but there were people from Canada, there were people from Australia, New Zealand, mostly from the US. And they were fans that we found online, and they heard us and they supported us. And, you know, it was them who gave us the inspiration and the, you know, the drive to actually wanting to go and see them. You know, we had one fan in San Antonio. We booked a show for him. Like, there were literally no people at that show, but the guy realized we came to play in San Antonio for him. Ruben, if you watch this, you know it's you, right? So yeah.
I love hearing stuff like that. That actually just, oh, you're gonna make me cry now. Jeez.
Yeah, and then
hear people so. It's not about bullshit money or any of that. It's just all about, you know, the passion. And it just, thank you.
Yeah, we just wanted to play. We wanted to tour America. I mean, come on. Like, if there's bands who sit in their towns for years, like, dude, you're not going to get exposure by sitting in your town, in your hometown, right? What are you going to do? Like, play for your friends for 1,000th time? You got me, right? But like, here, I would say most people would just do blah blah blah, you know, and this is really, and again, like, I don't want anybody to take this personal, but there's one thing, and this is probably a lay people, but you guys will tell me. So anyway, we noticed this trait that people would offer you help, not even help. They would say, oh, you know what? I'll hook you up with this guy. I know a guy who works at like blah, 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 blah. I'll hook you up with him. You're like, oh, really? That's awesome. You didn't ask for that, right? They just offered it. And you're like, oh, that would be amazing. So like, can I reach out to you and say, oh, yeah, add me on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. So you're adding them on Facebook. 2 days later, you're reaching out, following up, you know, like, hey, you mentioned you know this guy, like, can I get a contact? Silence. And you're like, what did I do wrong? I didn't even ask for this. You offered it yourself. And a lot of people think that if they offered something, it's like they already did it. It's like, ooh, and they feel good about themselves. Like, hey, you know what? I feel important. because I know this guy, and now you know that I know this guy, and I can potentially help you, but they never follow through. And this is a very LA thing. I don't know. Tell me if this is, if this happens to you guys. I don't know. It's like, is it a thing in America?
Yeah, unfortunately, the trend in America is people pretty much are all lip service and all talk and no action. When you
I
do,
love that expression.
you do find those people that actually really do, and it makes them all the more, appreciative, because there is very many people like to just bullshit. So then when there is them actual people that really do fall through in the word, it kind of gives you a new hope in humanity, because there isn't many. But unfortunately, I wish I had better news for you, but it sounds like it's pretty much the same here. So.
Yeah, well, what I really love going to smaller towns, because people there are more genuine, and they actually, and this is the kind of thing that I love from me being Russian. If I say something, I'll do something. Like, hey, I'm gonna be there. If I say I am going to be there, I will be there, because from where I come from, you gotta stand for your words. If you
Yeah,
don't
we're
do
very
what
much
you
like
say-
that, and unfortunately, everybody we know is not. So it's
Yeah, so like if I
no.
can't go somewhere, if I'm not sure, or if I don't want to, I might say, let's see. But I'm not gonna say, yeah, I'll be there 100% and then not show up, And
Yeah, we're the same way. But like I said, everybody else isn't. So I mean, it's to the point where we don't even really ask too many people to do anything anymore, because it just turns into such a big production. It's not even worth it. So I mean,
right.
your own thing, and if people follow suit, yeah, that's great too.
And have you noticed also, after something like that happens, they kind of feel guilty and they start like ghosting you. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't
Oh,
do
yeah.
anything wrong, dude.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I
like you didn't even ask
wrong.
for it, and then you're like, I haven't heard from Ted in like a month. Oh, that's right, he canceled out the last minute. So. Oh yeah, it's very much that way here. I wanted to tell you, I was checking out a lot of your videos this afternoon, and there was one in particular that I wanted to ask you about. You guys did this really cool video. I think the song was called "Young and Beautiful," and there was like, it's the first video I've ever seen that it's actually like virtual reality.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you noticed.
And like, I have a headset, and I'm like, this is such an innovative and cool thing. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do something like that before. And I wanted to ask you, how did you film that? Like, how do you film? How does that even come to be? Because like my stepdaughter and I was sitting here watching it, we're like, wow, this is just such a really cool thing. So like, it stood out in my mind. I wanted to ask you about it because I think it's really, really such a cool concept.
Thank you.
Yeah, your videos are just visually stunning. I mean, we sat here this afternoon. I watched it. I'm like, wow, how I don't know how you guys went under my radar. Like, I'm glad that we actually had it, because like I think you have a new fan. So, but yeah, how do you come up with a concept like I mean, because in all honesty, you know as well as I do, most music videos nowadays are pretty redundant and doing a lot of the same things. And whenever you see something that's like a very new or fresh take or an innovative concept, I really it's something special. But like, yeah, I was curious, how do you even begin to start to do something like that?
So I'll first answer about Young and Beautiful. So basically, Alex and I are mostly him. We're trying to always, be updated about like the tech stuff that appears. We don't want to be outdated and miss anything that's really cool. So the 360 technology has been around for a while. The problem with it was that before it was just too heavy. Like the files were so big that people were not able to enjoy them because either the internet was super slow or the quality wouldn't allow to like watch it full mode. And so at this point, the internet, pretty much everybody has, mobile internet that allows them to watch videos, right?
Yeah.
And so this new camera came out, GoPro Fusion, which allows you to film in 360. And it does that by having two cameras on both sides of the device. It's like this big. and there's two cameras on both sides, and they're like angled, like fisheye kind of thing. So each camera takes 180 like that.
Oh.
It's like a wide angle thing. And then you film on it, right? And then you put it in the program on your laptop or computer, and then you stitch it. So basically GoPro, I don't know why they stopped supporting it. Probably it was not really successful. People were having a lot of issues with that. We did. It took us a while to stitch that whole video. That's why we couldn't do like a full video. We had to actually edit it, which kind of interrupts the idea of immersion, but I think it still came out pretty good because I did the editing, and it was really hard working with those huge files, like gigabytes of information. But the thing is that you leave it stitching, and then after you get the whole 360 video. And we also have I don't know, again, if you watched this, but if the audience watched it, I would recommend watching it, because especially if you've never been to Los Angeles, California, that can be a pretty cool trip for you. So the idea was for us to be old in the beginning, and then slowly, by like escaping from, from a mental home or whatever, where we are, like just, hospital, by escaping, we kind of we feel younger, right? And by the end, we almost like young ourselves, right? So the difficulty was that we had to film everything twice, because first we had to be our actual selves, like the younger versions, and then we had to do this special effects makeup that was also very expensive, and we already bought a camera for $300. We couldn't afford to spend another $300 for the makeup, so we were very limited in our because we had to use the prosthetic. We wanted to be super old, but yeah, we had to do the special effects makeup, and then we had to do the whole shoot again as our young selves after. And the sun, we tried to follow the sun so that the sun is the same. And yeah, so it was basically 2 shooting days. Yeah, and we had to be very, very fast because we filmed in different locations here in LA. And we were basically just holding the camera. So that's how we filmed it. Because it's in 360, it doesn't allow you to have a cameraman.
Oh, yeah. See, it's such a cool thing. I wanted to make sure I got to talk about that with you, but let me get to the. I got a couple more here for you.
Please, I'm enjoying. If you're enjoying, I'm enjoying.
Oh, good. I just don't want to keep you all night long. But
Oh
yeah,
no, I love talking. You can probably tell that, right?
Well, that's great, because I have time. I like questioning. So I got about I got about another 8 for you then. How's that? What's the biggest difference between your audience in Russia and your audience in America? Is there a difference?
The audience in America buys merch. Like, for real. And I've already said that multiple times. That's why I want to be here. You guys here are amazing, because if you see an independent artist, or let's go, wider, an independent business, you want to support it monetarily. And you can't even imagine how important that is. And I don't want to say anything bad about our Russian fans, but I'll tell you this. So we played a sold-out show in Moscow before we left. It was like around 80 people. And most of them were our friends. And statistically, I think only like around 10 people, and I'm telling you again, most of them were our friends. Like, they knew us, they hadn't seen us for 6 years. Only like around 10 people out of 80 came to buy merch. There were people like that. Yeah, I mean, they wanted to support, and they came. I had my book that I wrote. They wanted to buy a book. But statistically, in America, we played shows for 10 people. There were cases like that. And it was on tour. Like, accidentally, it happened that there was no show for the show that we got booked. So yeah, like there was a misunderstanding with the venue. The previous promoter who booked us, he didn't put us on the calendar or whatever. So anyway, there were like 10 people, including the bartender, and 8 people out of 10 came to buy merch because they understood that we were on tour and we needed to pay for gas. And they also felt so sorry for the fact that there were only 10 people at the venue, and we still played an amazing show. Everybody enjoyed it, and they were just like going crazy. They're like, oh my God, I wish I could buy more, but I really want to support you guys because this is so amazing what you do, and you so deserve to have more people. And at least we want you to, and they even paid us. The venue even paid us for, for playing. So that is the difference, 80 to 10, 10 to 8. How about that?
Well, that's good to hear because we are very passionate over here, and that is kind of a whole experience whenever you go to see your band. I mean, you go and you get the merch, you go and see the show. I mean, it is a very, it is a thing over here. So that's good. I'm glad they didn't rip you. So that's good. Speaking of shows that you've played, what's the best and worst memory you have about playing a show? Have you ever witnessed anything like absolutely insane? That's a yes.
I don't know, because I'm trying to think about both. I definitely have some shows that I have stories about that I tell people about, like in a good way, like, hey, you know what? We played in Eureka, Northern California, and like at 1 a.m. in the morning, the bartender, there was a bar fight starting, and he hit the bottle on the bar counter, and with that, we call it the rose, like a broken bottle that you can hit people with. He said, "Everyone, get out!" And yeah,
Jesus.
yeah, and I mean, there were some like fun stories. Once after like a show in Amarillo, that was also a bar fight. But I have to say that in Eureka and Amarillo, those were the cities where we made most on merch. So we love coming to places like this, Yeah, like, I mean, people are passionate about stuff there. That's why they get into fights, right? But worst shows, okay, I have one. So back in 2007, I was very unconfident. I hated looking at myself on the video. I had some extra weight problems. Not that I don't have them now, but I just don't care now. At that moment, I did care because I was 18 years old, and 18 years old is a very fragile age. So anyway, the first time we got on TV was with the band, and it was completely uncomfortable for me. Like, I was on stage, I couldn't relax. I didn't hear shit. I was not even sure I'm in the right key. However, I didn't have any other choice. I just had to keep going, and I sang something, and I looked pretty bad. They did bed makeup for me. And then one of the judges, so the TV show that I told you about, that was the second season, where it was actually for bands. There were only bands, and we got to the finals. But there was actually another one a year before, the first season, where they had all types of artists, and we only got to the like preliminary round. We played once, and then we got thrown off. So one of the judges, after we played, how they give their competent opinion, and he said he was gay, like an old gay director. My mom actually knew him, and she had mentioned like he was an asshole. So he said, oh, you're all so tense. We need to do something with you. Like, aren't you in a rock band? And I was tense because I couldn't relax on stage. Like, I couldn't hear shit. They didn't give us sound check or anything. We were the only live band playing there. Everybody else was like pop singers with barely undies on and like rappers and shit. And
Oh.
so he came up to me on stage and he put his tongue in my ear to relax me.
Ew.
Oh.
Yeah.
It died. Oh God.
And that was just, I mean, up to these days, I can, like, if somebody did to me right now, this to me right now, I mean, they'd be probably like with a concussion in an emergency. But at that moment, I stood there, and that was, fortunately, that didn't make it to the final airing to the show, but I wanted to die, like, for real. I don't think I deserved such a treatment, even for the sake of, you know, hype or whatever. Like, I don't think you can do this to a person, just basically violating their privacy when they're not even 21.
Oh,
You
you
know,
shouldn't
like,
do that to anybody, age regardless. Oh,
yeah, can you
it's
imagine
okay
that?
to put your hands on people. It's nasty. Ugh.
Yeah, so I guess that was probably the
Oh.
most painful experience on stage that I've ever had. And I resigned from the band that night, and then I wrote a post about that on I don't know if you remember, there was a service for like live diaries back in the day. Well, probably, I mean, there was some kind of thing like that in America. We had that in Russia, and my post was #1 for like a week or so.
Oh, wow.
But that was pretty much it. Like, after a while, I guess I learned to, I don't even know how I learned to live with that. Like, even right now, I drank a lot though. So yeah, maybe that helped.
Well, that's a hell of an example. I was going to ask you, how did the pandemic affect your band? And I'd read that you're having visa problems. Are you coming over? Are you going to do a tour soon, or?
Yeah, we have nine shows scheduled along the West Coast, all the way up north to Seattle. And hopefully we'll be able to play them, because our current O1 artist visa expires sometime in the end of September, and we need to apply for a new one urgently. And that was a little bit of a shock for us, because we just got this one in January and we thought we would be able to extend. The problem was that with the pandemic, we couldn't do anything like a lot of people in the music industry. And I mean, I guess we're in a good position, because all we did, we canceled a tour that was scheduled for 2020. And then we had to wait for embassies to reopen, because we got our, so an O1 visa is a petition-based visa. So we applied in 2019. We got an approval in March 2020. And since then, we needed to go to the embassy to get the actual visa. So when your petition is approved, it doesn't mean that you actually get the visa. You have to go to the embassy. But the embassy is only, well, the embassies are only outside the country. There's no American embassies in America, right? So we had to wait until they all reopen, and we waited for 2 years. I had a horrible depression. No motivation to do anything. I injured my knee last year pretty bad. Eventually I had to have a surgery, and that also happened because I mean, who didn't gain quarantine 15 during the pandemic, right?
I gained quarantine 60, I think. So
So I did too, you know, so no judgment. I got fat, and yeah, I played tennis, and my knee just said, you know what? You can't do shit like this when you're like big. So yeah, I ended up having a surgery in October. Still recovering, you know, trying to get back in shape. Not trying, I'm actually doing that, I mean. But I guess it's not as bad. I mean, it was mostly like, okay, this is another challenge that I will go through and get better, and now I will learn to survive in different circumstances. And the good thing is that I'm not the only one. Everybody's going through it. So together, you know, I'm just really sad that fear is fear is that emotion that drives so many people every day, because that's what the governments, and I'm super, I'm super anti like governmental and stuff like that. I feel like that's what they're waiting for. When you're scared, you're easy to control. So people, stop being scared. You can literally trip on a banana, whatever it's called. Banana what? Banana?
Peel?
Yes, exact. And you're gonna die. So stop being scared to get COVID. It's not a thing anymore. Now they have monkeypox, and they will have shit for us to keep us scared until we die. Okay, but that will eventually happen. So probably you should just, come to terms with that understanding,
Is there anybody you'd like to work with that you haven't had a chance to work with yet?
Yeah, I would really love to record a duo with Danny Worsnop of Ask in Alexandria. Yep.
What's the best advice anyone's ever given you? You talked earlier about people giving you advice that wasn't in the same profession or field, but is there anybody, like one key piece of advice that somebody gave you that actually was beneficial?
I guess it's a mixture of, people that I constantly listen to. We do educate ourselves. We went to Tony Robbins's UPW last year, and we listened to a lot of gurus like Sadhguru, Osho, and it's just a mixture of like wisdom. And a lot of people are saying that, when they talk to us, we feel like we're much older than we are. And yeah, and I mean, and we look younger, so there's kind of like a little contradiction, but I would say I just try to learn from the people who you can learn from. Like if your neighbor is giving you advice and you're like, dude, like, what do you do? Play video games and you're giving me advice. I don't think it's very precious. But when people who actually achieved some success give you free knowledge and advice, you'd better take it. So yeah, I guess the best advice for anyone, and yeah, I can probably say my dad gave me this advice, like think less and just do shit, and and don't let your emotion rule you.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
Pet peeve? What's that?
Oh, there you go. There's an American.
Oh, okay. There's an American statement. How would I explain this?
Like annoyance, I guess.
What's your biggest annoyance in society?
Ooh, man, you're just pouring the pus out of me. Okay. I hate stupid people. Like,
oh my God. We can start a religion.
I just like,
don't even get me started.
Yeah, right. And that, like, in I understand that, sometimes we all make mistakes, right? But like stupidity, and then the next thing is when people are slow. And I understand that's something that I can't, that I should be more tolerant with, because I know I'm fast. I'm like, I bump into corners and I speak fast and I have a lot of energy, right? And I'm loud, which people get annoyed by. But I hate when people are just like, yeah, I don't know, I'll probably, and then they take forever to, to go somewhere. Like they need 2 hours to pack their shit to go to the gym. I don't know. Or like, yeah, that really pisses me off. And then, yeah, I can't stand when people don't stand up to their words, right? Is that how I put it?
Yes.
Like, if you say you're gonna do shit, do shit. If you can't do that, don't promise, and then again, if you don't want to come to my show ever, why are you even friends with me in the first place? I'm all about my band. And I mean, this is like, why do I want to, I don't know, like people would be like, reaching out, and they're like, yeah, that would be nice to like see each other, and then we never do. And I say, hey, you know what, I'm playing a show that night, you should come over if you want to hang out, you know, if you want to like talk and, you know, drink some non-alcoholic beer. And they never show up. Why do you even reach out to me? Like, why do you want to be friends with me, you know?
You know, it's funny, like we were just talking a little bit ago, and the pandemic actually was beneficial in the fact that it made me see exactly people for what they are. All these, I've been friends with people for so long that just, you know, I didn't realize the caliber of their person. And now I see what kind of like douchebags they are. And so I kind of got to do a whole, you know, a cleanup, you know, and I got to actually see who's who and what's what. And, you know, it kind of feels good. So like, I mean, anybody that's racist, sexist, homophobic, anybody that is spreading or preaching hate, I got to just clean house and get them all the fuck out of my life. So I think that's, you know, if there's one good thing that came from the pandemic, I would have to say it's that. So now I'm much more, yeah, I'd like to say I kind of learned from the whole experience, and I'm much more, you know, guarded as to who I actually make friends with. So, I mean, that was a good thing. I mean, but let me ask you this. I got a couple fun ones for you before I let you go. If you got into a time machine and you was able to give little you some advice to help you when you get older, what would that be?
Some advice from now to when I'm older.
From when you were small, and you could give you could go back in a time machine and give little you some advice that would change your life.
Okay, stop fooling around, get shit done.
That's good. What do you think your life would be like had you not pursued music?
I could definitely be a horse riding sportsman athlete, because I was doing dressage, and that was my passion. It's just my parents didn't think I was you know, made to spend my life at the stables. So yeah, they, not that they didn't let me, but I don't know, we all get influenced by our parents. My parents were like, you at the stables, but like, you're so smart. I have a BA in linguistics, you know, and I'm like, I finished school with the silver medal for, you know, being an A grader. Yeah. And I don't know, that's what or another thing, if I hadn't met Alex, I would have probably gone to be an exchange student in either France or somewhere, like my university was offering exchange in France. I would have probably, you know, married a foreigner and moved somewhere. A lot of my fellow students did that. A lot of my friends moved to other countries. Actually, like most of my very good friends did that. I don't have a lot of friends left in Russia. A few good friends, but they are mostly like our friends, musicians. So yeah, everybody who had good education, you know, moved away from there. And there's a joke among us immigrants, you know, the last person who flies out of Russia, don't forget to turn off the light at the airport, because otherwise we'll have to pay bills. Yeah.
Have you ever had writer's block when you're trying to create a song, and what did you do to get over that?
Not really. I would just say there's different songs. There's songs that you write with inspiration. You feel like you want to write it and you're channeling, but then there's also songs that you actually have to think about. You have to put in the ideas, and sometimes we discuss with Alex, and then it's just the work. I mean, like, sometimes you feel like you know, everything you do, it's easy, right? Some days you're just like, oh my God, how do I make myself do this for, you know, 10 more minutes? Same thing here. Like, if you know you have to finish the song, or at least work on it, because sometimes you have a goal and you have to put yourself to it, you know. It doesn't come that easily. It doesn't always come that easily. So you tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna work on this for 5 minutes. And then sometimes you would work for more, or sometimes you'd be like, okay, 5 minutes, I did it. Good job, good job. And yeah, and you'll be done for the day. But then the next day, maybe you'll do 15 minutes. But sometimes it is the work that you have to do. And for me, again, as I said, English is not my first language. So I actually try my best to write the lyrics so that they're full of meaning, and so that they don't sound like a text written by a foreigner, like "we'll be forever together," you know, and shit like
Yeah.
that. And that's what, yeah, people are like, yeah, I write in English, but you want to put the meaning in there. So yeah, sometimes you got to put in the work, and I use a lot of dictionaries. I use the synonym dictionary, the rhyme dictionary, the actual translator urban dictionary for some slang words. So it's a lot of work.
What age do they start teaching English?
What age did I start learning English or teaching to people?
Yes.
Okay.
What age did you start learning English?
So since I was listening to English speaking artists pretty much all my childhood, I think that my dad introduced me to the alphabet when I was 5. And then since I was 7, I had a private teacher in both English and French. I also speak French.
Did they require that in school?
Is that a requirement in school, or is that just something that your parents decided would make your life a little easier?
My mom specifically, because she doesn't speak any language. So the first time she went to France in 1990 and realized how horrible it is to not being able to speak, she decided that she needed to teach me languages, like from my very childhood, even though they didn't have a lot of money. But usually in Russia, they start teaching English starting from the 1st grade, from 2nd sometimes. The thing is, the Russian educational system is made that way that they make you learn grammar for 10 years and you never actually learn to speak. So yeah. So you'd be like, yeah, you don't know what the difference is between 2nd conditional and 3rd conditional. Ay, shame on you. Like, really?
Is there anything that you deem off limits to write a song about?
Yeah, bullshit that people sing about nowadays, like bitches and money and, oh yeah, now I made it, suck my whatever. And like that crap, man, so bad. So bad. Like I can't, you know.
What's one thing you can't live without? And you can't say music.
Alex?
Oh,
Not a thing, as a person.
What's some trends that are popular right now that you either don't like or don't understand?
Coming back to the previous question, I don't understand where all this crappy ideas for songs come to these now popular performers. Like, where is the good stuff for the soul?
You know, you got me too, because I'm very limited in what I listen to. I'm kind of stuck in a time warp. I still listen to all the same punk and ska, and like I like from the early 90s, and I like Motown and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, it's mumble rap. I don't get all this new modern stuff the kids are into. I guess we're sounding like curmudgeon-y old people, but I'm okay with it because I just don't get it. But
like, we love listening to the new music, getting some ideas, analyzing where it's moving just as an observer, without judging. But to me, it's the idea. It's like with every other piece of art, it's art if there is actually food for the soul, for the mind. But what I hear right now, a lot of things, not everything. And that's why I think music from the 80s is so popular nowadays, because of this. Because the new music is so egoist. You know what I mean?
yes.
It's not about expressing because you can't hold it in. It's because, ooh, I will bitch it. I mean, I'm not delusional. I
No,
understand.
no, you're absolutely right.
Rock bands back in the day, it was about girls. I get it. But it was still like, I can't hold it in. That's why I'm going to get it out. And I'm not idealizing it. I understand there was always people who were singing about things that I don't consider appropriate singing about for myself. But I mean, that's why we're all different. That's why we all listen to different stuff, different music. For somebody it works, and I mean, it's just about like their level of consciousness, right?
Well, by that rationale, it would make sense that why there's so many songs about love and being in love, because you know that's a passion thing that you can't hold in. So I mean,
Right.
it makes sense to me. Who would you pick to play you in a movie if they did a biopic about you?
I would totally agree to this only if they did the same thing to me they did to Brad Pitt and Benjamin Button. Like, for real, dude, like nobody will do that better than me. I mean, come on.
I gotta say, I gotta tell you, I got one last question for you. And how do you stay positive in this insane world today? Do you have any advice for my audience?
Oh yeah. It's only discipline of mind. We go and train our bodies in gyms. Well, fortunately, most of the people came to understanding how important it is, right? Training your body regularly. The same thing, even more important, is what you do with your mind. And if you think about it from the point of view of evolution, our mind is much younger than our bodies. Our bodies have existed long before our consciousness grew to the point where it is today. And that is why you have this perfect mechanism in your skull that you have to train regularly. And even if you have a bad day, it doesn't mean that you can be just like, oh, whatever, this shit doesn't work, right? You don't do this at the gym. Even if you have a bad day at the gym, you still keep coming back, right? And that's the same thing that I do. I do priming, and that's the thing that Tony Robbins taught me, and a lot of other gurus, Joe Dispenza, Kejo, they're all pretty much saying about the same thing, right? If you read The Secret or watched the movie, it's all about the same thing. It's just, it is explained from different angles, right? And if you want to get rid of something that you don't want in your life, you should focus on exactly the opposite. If you keep focusing on what you don't want in your life, it's just going to be there, right? So I train my mind with priming. I do meditation every day with gratitude. 3 things I'm grateful for. 3 things that 3 things to thrive, as Tony Robbins called them. So things that I want to attract in my life. And I'm also, well, some people call it prayer. I'm sending it, I'm calling it sending good energy. So I'm reconnecting with the, you know, with the world, with the space, and I'm sending good energy to the people I love, to the people I care about. And I'm thanking myself for doing the work every day, for, you know, staying disciplined and consistent, because I've been in very dark places in my life. I had depression, I had bipolar, you know, I had panic attacks. And well, if it's not me, you know, if I don't want to do the work, nobody else is going to do that for me. So that, people, you have to remember, you have to take responsibility for the shit that goes on in your head. And when you just find excuses, you just find excuses. Nobody's going to help you, right? So the most important thing is just discipline here, discipline everywhere else. And that's how you find happiness, because life is a process of change. If you stop, you die, you know. And even if you're alive outside, you're dead inside, right? Because you're not growing, you're not evolving, right? So
Well, I just want to thank you so much for being so candid and open. It was a delight talking to you. Last but not least, I just want to actually let my audience know, where can we keep up with Chase the Comet?
so we have a new album coming out in September, and of course you can find us on all socials. Just look for Chase the Comet. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. These are the 4 where we're most active. Of course, you can find us on all digital platforms. We really appreciate all the attention, and we're also one of those artists who actually talk directly to fans. So if you reach out to us on Instagram, that's the best way to communicate. We actually get back to you. We talk, and we become friends with the people who support us and listen to our music.
Well, it was nice to actually get to chat with you. It was nice to actually get to become friends here. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being a guest on my show. It was a pleasure to talk to you so much. Peace and love. Peace and love.